Hi, and welcome to Knowledge Bomb. Tips and tricks for aspiring artists, modders, or YouTubers. Today we're making a GIMP tutorial on, if you don't mind me saying myself, pretty realistic wood from scratch. This guide is with game textures in mind, but you can apply this technique to any digital art where wood is needed. Let's get bombing. As you can see, I have GIMP open here, but no project. So we're going to go ahead and click on File, New, and make it any size you want. Larger is better because if you make something smaller, the detail just becomes finer. But if you make something larger, it can become pixelated or skewed. Fill this first layer with a brown that you like. I prefer a cherry wood brown, but you can use any brown that you want. Go ahead and click on the bucket tool, and then click on your layer, and it will just fill everything in with that brown because we don't have any lines currently. Then you're going to go ahead and right-click on the layer, and click on New, click on White, and click on OK. You're going to head to Filters, scroll down near the bottom where it says Render, Clouds, and then Difference Clouds. And I know what you're thinking, why am I adding clouds to wood? But just stick with me here, I know what I'm doing. On Random Seed, you're going to type a 5. You could do any number you want here, but I'm going with a 5 for this purpose. You're going to grab your X, shove it all the way to the right, and then on the Y, you're going to move it down to about a 1. It's not an exact science, and you can play with it as much as you'd like, but you're going to want to keep this amount low. Above the X, you'll see a little box that says Tileable. If you're making this as a game texture, you'll want to choose that. But for the purpose of this tutorial, I'm not going to worry about it. Now you're going to go ahead and change the layers mode to overlay. So right above there it says mode, you're going to click on overlay at about halfway. And then you're going to change the opacity to around 45. It's again not an exact science, so play around with it. After you've found one that you like the way it looks, you're going to go ahead and right click on it and duplicate that layer. On the new layer, you're going to go to Filters, up at the top, and then click on Edge Detection, which is about halfway down the list, and Edge. You're going to change the algorithm to Pruitt Compass. And then right below it, you're going to change the amount to 10, which also happens to be all the way to the right. If you don't like that much grain on your wood, you can of course turn it down until you find something you do like. This top layer, the edged one, we're going to go ahead and set the opacity on it to around 40. Go ahead and play with it and find something that you're happy with. 40 is what I'm going to go ahead and go with. And then you're going to right click on that top layer, the edged one, and you're going to duplicate it again. Now if you wanted to, you could invert this new layer, and that will give you kind of an offset of the texturing, but we're not going to worry about that. Head to Layer, Transform, and then Offset. Put your X to about an 8 and your Y to about an 8 as well. Then hit Offset. Make sure it's on pixels, by the way. Percent is not what you're looking for. Now this top layer, the offset one, you're going to want to set to around a 15 opacity. Again, not a science. Find something that you like. And then you're going to select the lowest layer, you know, where our brown is. You're going to click Add New Layer and make sure now that it's on transparent and not white. And this layer will be between the clouds and the color. Using the paintbrush tool, you're going to find Charcoal 02. And if you click up at the top here where it describes all of the brushes, you can literally just type in charcoal 02 and it will list it. This is one of the brushes that comes default with GIMP. So unless you've deleted it, you should have it. You're going to change your color to something similar to a mold green. I'm grabbing the green that I use right now on my felt normally for my page, and I'm just kind of adjusting it, making it a little bit more lighter and gray, and I'm going to make it a little bit more yellow. I guess it's closer to maybe an avocado green, perhaps. And then using your brush, well actually wait, no, adjust your opacity first to around a 20. Then set your brush size to about 1/4 of the size of your image. And you can just kind of line it up. And you can see if I put it this 1, 2, 3, 4, that's kind of the width. And when I mean 1/4, I mean width-wise. And then you're going to spread the green kind of randomly around your transparent layer to add some discoloration to the wood. You really don't want it to be mechanical. You want it to look like something that's been distressed by the environment. So try and move kind of randomly as best you can. Then select your eraser and keep the same brush size and brush opacity. Only now you're going to use the eraser tool randomly across the layer. Try not to fully erase any areas and try not to erase evenly. You want some high parts and some low parts. It's the only way that it's going to come across as even remotely realistic. Now just kind of play around with these steps of the eraser and the brush over and over again until you're happy with your result. Then, once you are, select that layer and reduce the opacity to about, again, 40%, I'd say. And then you're going to go ahead and right-click on your layer and create a new transparent layer above the old one. Again, make sure that white is not selected. Then you're going to go ahead and choose a dark blue color. I'm kind of preferring almost like a deeper version of traditional navy. A little bit more grayish, there we go. And then you're going to keep the opacity as the same level before for the brush at about a 20. And you're going to change it to cell 01. And that's cell like this, an organism cell, not cell is buy and sell. And you're going to go ahead and press this brush in random spots all over the wood to create an aged effect, or where the wood has lost some coloring. This time you're not really dragging it, you're just kind of clicking to make these spots where pressure and water have caused damage. And then, just like before, you're going to switch over to the eraser and go back over your layer where you added these colors and remove some of it. You're going to want to go a little heavier on the eraser this time, but still keep those nice dark spots. And again, you can flip-flop between it until you're happy with the result. Then you're going to go to Mode and choose Multiply. And set the opacity really low, maybe a 20. And next you're going to do, you probably want to save your work here actually, in case you need to go back and edit anything or make new woods. And if you'd like, you can go ahead and save your work again as the original name with a 2 on the end, so any accidental saving doesn't overwrite the first one. Doing this will be really helpful for when you have to crank out additional woods. You can just kind of alter this one, some of the distress or one of the other layers, and you'll have your wood to work with. Because the next thing we're going to do is merge visible layers. And that's going to crush everything into one, so you won't be able to go back and affect it. So it's all become this one solid piece of wood at this point. So the next thing you're going to do is go to Filters, Distorts, and Eye Warp. And this is my personal preference, but I really like to see what I'm doing when I do this. So you're going to want to kind of drag the Eye Warp window to a corner and resize it as big as you possibly can. That way you can really see the preview for the wood that you're working with, because this next part is very, very detail oriented. You're going to go ahead and select Grow, and you're going to set the deform radius to about a 60. And you're going to randomly warp areas of the wood to improve the grain effect, spending time on certain areas to make some selections more warped than others. You can always click Reset if you don't like the results. And I'll show you real quick. As you can see, kind of when I drag, it makes some of it more bubbly than other areas. And if you push Reset down here, it will completely remove everything that you've done and revert it back. Now you're going to go ahead and select Shrink and do the same thing. And what that does is it makes it kind of warp in the opposite direction. It gives it kind of that wave effect. If you find that you've done too much, like see this area down here doesn't look really realistic, you can go over it with Remove and it will negate some of the things that you've done. Just keep playing around with Grow and Shrink until you get something that looks like a nice solid chunk of wood that has the proper waves in the grain like you would see on a normal piece of furniture. When you're ready, you're going to go ahead and choose Swirl. You can choose counterclockwise, or you can choose clockwise, or you can go through both. And now you're going to turn the deform radius way, way down in comparison to what you had it. I'm going with about 15. And around the areas that have a good amount of warpage, you're going to kind of spin your brush really quickly, or your plus sign, I guess. And you're gonna make these knots in your wood where the tree has had branches or something has caused it to create these circular knotting. And you can switch between counterclockwise and clockwise, it doesn't matter. And then really quickly go over your knots with Remove. You don't want to push this for very long. You just don't want it to look so much like a whirlpool. It'll also kind of polish off the knot and make it look more like it's part of the wood. Once you're happy with your results, you just go down and push OK. Now, as you can see, my wood looks really good at this point. The age and the yellow, greenish yellowing of it has really gone to look like a polish. Now you're going to add a new layer on top of it. And this time you want transparent, and flip it on over to a really, really dark brown, almost a black. And you're going to switch your brush back to the default. The one that you use for blurring. I believe it's called Hardness 025. And you want to bring the size down to about the size of your knots. And then you're going to go over... Oh, I have it on erase. You're going to go over it with your brush very lightly where the knots are, because that usually causes discoloration in the wood. just kind of gently, wherever you put your knots, add that discoloration. Then you're going to go ahead and switch back over to the smudge tool this time. And without going through the middle, only around the edges, you want to smudge this darkening outwards so it spreads better into the wood. So it doesn't look so much like it doesn't exist. Then you're going to go ahead and merge that down to the layer below. And as you can see, this is at 100%. There you go. You have your wood, and it looks really realistic with its polish and grain knots. It's really easy, and you didn't have to draw a single thing. I'm gonna go ahead and spin that wheel for its replacement. Thank you so much for watching. Click that like, it really does help me out. Click subscribe if you would like more content. Thanks again for watching. Bye, bye, bye.